Hi, welcome to Romance Writers Therapy. This week we have Roxie Noir, who Marty V is an unabashed fangirl.
I am. I'm being very cool today, though.
Has introduced me to the cult of Roxie Noir.
I hope you're ready to be uncomfortable with how much I gush over you, Roxie.
She sent me like 3 different gifs of her hyperventilating into a bag when I was like, what if we invited Roxie Noir, your what was the word you used?
Oh god, I don't know.
Hero worship?
Yeah, I think I used hero worship. I totally did. Yep. Nailed it. She's like, you should ask Roxie to be on. I'm like, oh, should I? Well, should I do that? Like, I don't know. So.
Angsted about it for a few days.
Only one night. I did need to sleep on the feelings.
Felt like longer.
So I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah, me too. This is exciting. I never do podcasts. I don't know what I'm doing.
That's okay. Neither do we.
Well, you just say whatever you want.
Okay, great.
So far, we've been winging it and just kind of interrupting each other nonstop. So if you have a thought, just say it.
Okay.
Like, don't feel like you're interrupting anyone because
it's gonna happen.
Okay, I can probably do that.
But yeah, I'm actually I'm at the Dark Knight or maybe I'm at Wake Up for Levi right now. And
oh, I can't wait till I get to his book.
Oh my gosh, Kate, I cannot wait for you to get to his book. It's so good. So
I have to be honest and say that I don't know what any of that means.
Oh, really?
Where you're at. I am a trash at plotting. That's not, I shouldn't say I'm trash, but I feel like I have read 1,000 plot books and gone over Save the Cat a million times and tried to diagram so many things and just it never works out in my brain.
Huh. Well, you do it really intuitively.
Yeah, my subconscious knows how to plot. My regular brain doesn't. I just sort of stare at a wall until it all works. I guess.
Okay, so I am at the last quarter of Breaking the Rules right now. That's where I'm at in editing my current project. So it's been really good to read because I'm really stuck where I'm at and I don't have time to be stuck.
I fully understand that feeling.
You should hear about Marty's editing schedule. The other day she says to me, I have 10 chapters left to edit in 7 days. Or something like that.
No, I have 7 chapters left to edit in 10 days.
In 10 days. Okay. So a
little less. But, I mean, a couple
neck.
of those chapters don't exist yet. So I really...
Well, there's the hard part.
God, you are giving me an aneurysm.
I know. I'm stressed out, too.
I'm always curious about this, because I think my writing process might be, on one end of the bell curve in terms of, writing and editing. When you say editing... What do you mean by editing? Do you mean going over and smoothing out, or how much reworking do you do after you have a first draft?
So much reworking.
Okay.
My first draft.
Marty's first drafts.
Garbage.
She will rewrite a chapter if I say something like, "Oh, I could use a little more of this," and then she goes, "Okay, I deleted all of it." I'm like, why would you do that?
I didn't delete it. I just set it aside and started completely new. My brain works... Okay, so the way I see my first drafts, because I don't plot, I see them as a really extensive outline.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes when I look at editing, it's I've built a map and it's going in the wrong direction, and I would do better if I totally threw that map out and started over.
I understand that completely.
Yeah. So I do loads of rewriting, and right now I'm in the middle of developmental edits before sending it off to copy.
Okay. So do you finish a first draft and then go back and rework all of that? Are you a shitty first draft writer?
Yeah.
Or are you okay?
I think so, at least. But yeah, so Kate was saying how the Loveless Brothers takes place in Virginia.
They're all in Appalachia.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in southwestern Virginia. I grew up in Virginia. So
oh, okay.
I spent a lot of time there. I spent approximately 18 years there. So
so it's a lot of personal details, not details, but lived experience.
I mean, I grew up sort of in a rural area that wasn't the mountains, but had a lot of cows and rednecks and trees and just Virginia stuff. a lot of the like town of Sprucevale is based on like the towns near where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And especially like every so often you'll read about like some dumb town argument that people are having over like the ice cream machines at Walter's Ice Cream or something. And most of that is like plucked directly from the letters to the editor of my youth.
That's hilarious.
Just like the stupid small town things that people fight about that I love from 3,000 miles away.
Right. I definitely, it feels very much like the small town I grew up in. Like, even though like different regions of the country, it does read very, very much like true to small town experience. So I'm not surprised you're pulling from real experience. So
yeah, I feel like, so like my husband grew up in Los Angeles, which is where I live now. And I grew up in like, you know, a small town in Virginia. And like, for a couple years, we actually lived in Charlottesville, Virginia, like after we were married, and just like watching him in like a relatively, I guess Charlottesville is like a small city, but like just like watching this dude from like a very large city move to this like small southern town was kind of fun, and I was also very much like, oh, it is weird.
No, right.
Like, I remember the first time he like parked his car on the street in front of someone's house because it's a public street with public parking. You can do that.
Yeah.
And this person like left a long detailed note on his windshield about how he wasn't allowed to park there because it was her parking spot. It wasn't. Just like this long, I don't even remember what it said exactly, but like it was long and detailed and very like high-handed in a way that you only get in like small southern towns. And I remember she signed it like Mrs. Smith or whatever, and that was the weirdest part of the whole thing for him. Like, not just that somebody left this like very
scathing note.
Like, it wasn't even scathing, it was like condescending in a very specific way. And then she signed it like Mrs. whatever, and so like my husband grew up just like calling adults by their first names.
Yeah,
because California. And, like, so all of his friends' parents were, like, you know, Jack and Jill or whatever. And so he was like, the people here think that I, a grown man, will be calling them Mrs. and Mr. whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think so. I think you're okay. But, like, there's a whole, like, southern small town mindset that is a little alien if you, like, didn't grow up in one, I think.
I think that is true. Now gathered, like, the South and their Mr. and Mrs. and, like, terms like that isn't something I relate to so much. But I think that that is pretty true of, like, small towns in general, where they just haven't had enough, I don't want to say, like, because I mean this affectionately and not condescendingly, but, like...
Not like that note.
Yeah, like, yeah, I don't mean it like the note. I'm not the note lady. So, the big reveal, I left the note. So. But, like, people who have lived in a small town, always lived in a small town, there's, like, this sense of, like, that town is home. The whole thing is home, and there's ownership there, right? And so I feel like you're literally generations deep in this ownership. And so it's really hard for someone else to come into that space. I don't think they mean to be unwelcoming, but like it can come off as unwelcoming.
Yeah, and like Charlottesville is a college town, so I imagine they were dealing with a lot of like drunk undergrads or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, like small towns, I like them in theory. You'll note that I did not stay in one.
Yeah, I get that.
But like they can be both very like lovely and familial, and everyone knows everyone.
But like that's also its own box.
They can be very like insular and nosy, and everyone knows everyone.
Exactly. And like they remember what you did or said, or so and so did or said when they were in kindergarten. You know what I mean? Like it's long memories. My mom went to the same school that I did, and we had the same teachers. We had like 3 or 4 of the same teachers.
Oh no.
No, we had like 5 or 6 of the same teachers. And it was fine. Mom did okay. But like there were other families that I think maybe had more of an uphill battle because of the teachers remembering like their parents and like stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. I definitely hear stories of like teachers or like kids with a lot of like siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Just like if you're like the fifth in line, then nobody has any idea what your name is.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you walk in and they're like, "Are you a Martin?" Like all you did was sit down at your desk and they're like, "You're a Martin." Like they just know you. So.
Luckily, I'm the oldest, so
I only have an older brother. Yeah. I did have people like I was working in the city like 20 minutes away when I was 16. And I had a complete stranger like come up to the cafe and she was like, "You are," and she said my mom's name. And she's like, "You're her daughter." And I was like, "I am. And I've never seen this person before." And she's like, "I went to school with her and you look exactly like her." So like,
that's so weird.
Yeah. We're very carbon copy. Very much so.
Yeah, I feel like that's the kind of thing that people who have always lived in cities don't believe happens in small towns, and it does.
It
all
does.
The time.
I loved how you represented that actually when Levi, like, okay, so Levi's the oldest, and then there's Eli, who's the second oldest, and then Caleb is the youngest. And Caleb and Eli are walking through Levi's front door, and we're in Levi's perspective, and Levi was like, Caleb walks in, followed by my dad, and their dad is deceased, so obviously it's not him. And for a second, like, my heart stopped, and then realized, like, no, it's Eli. Eli just looks exactly like their dad. And it was just like, I thought that was such a great way of representing like that familial tie. And like, I just really felt for Levi in that moment to like see like the specter of his dad and his brother, you know? I thought that was so pretty.
Yeah. Well, I think like in those books, it's especially because I think Eli is around the same age that their dad was when he died. So like, I mean, like I would never think that I would like never mistake my brother for my dad, because in my head, my brother is in his 30s and my dad is in his 70s. And so like, that doesn't work. But I feel like when somebody's stopped existing in their 30s, or like, I need to look at a timeline to figure out how old he was when he died. I don't have that in my brain right now.
You said in the book they were the same age right now. So you're okay, good. Yeah. You're totally right.
I can barely like remember my book titles myself. Like,
well, you have a few out.
Spreadsheets for everything else.
Kate, I'm sorry. I'm talking a ton. Do you want to talk?
Oh no. Okay. No, you're good. I'm like, oh, this is the Marty fanning.
I'm so sorry.
I was just basking in the experience of that. I was like, oh, you know the whole world. I just started, like, I got halfway through the first book today.
Which is so good. I love that one.
Thanks.
When did you start your indie publishing career?
Oh God. I started it like mid 2014.
Was that the plan the whole way, or did you query?
I don't have a plan. I've never had any kind of plan for anything in my entire life.
I am stumbling into success. That is how I'm doing it.
Literally, yes. I have a terrible habit of like doing something and then figuring out how later.
Okay.
Which you wouldn't think would work at all, but I'm still alive.
Again, I so relate to that. I've gotten more into doing research, but yeah, I mean, everything is like, it probably goes like this, and just trying, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I just jump into things, and then later someone will be like, you could have Googled that. And I'm like, I guess I could have. Sure didn't.
But it's almost like I need context for information to sink in.
Absolutely, yeah. Like it's much easier for me to like learn something by doing it than to actually like read an instruction. It's my husband is really into board games, and I'm like kind of into board games. Not as much as him. He like loves the super long, terrible ones.
Oh, I do too.
That you have to like sit around, like Twilight Imperium, or like God, he's got one called Chaos in the Old World that's just insufferable. I have not
seen either of these. So, are they two people games by chance?
Twilight Struggle, I think, is the one that's notoriously like a 12-hour game.
Oh my gosh, it sounds like a riot to me.
Do you want to come play it with him?
Yes,
you're welcome.
Absolutely. My husband and I both will. We are both.
He would be so happy.
Andrew and I will be doing something, and he'll like jokingly say to our daughter, like, "You ready to watch mom and dad get unnecessarily competitive?" So yes, we will absolutely come play.
That sounds great. I prefer the ones that are like shorter and require. I'm bad at strategy. Like I'm bad at planning, which also makes me bad at strategy. So like if I have to think more than a turn or two ahead, then I'm just gonna start doing things to entertain myself.
Yeah. I get it.
And lose the game.
But it's almost like that chaos makes it harder for Andrew to strategize.
Yeah, he gets really mad at me. Like, bless my husband's heart. Like, really, really loves playing board games. And I think part of what he likes is, like, teaching people how to play board games, which to his eternal dismay is mostly me. And so he has to, like, suffer through me. And, like, every single time he tries to, like, explain a board game and, like, go through, and he's pretty good at, like, going through it in a way that will, like, actually make sense to most people and, like, isn't just reading the rules, which is a terrible way to actually explain a board game.
Yeah.
But, like, every single time, no matter how short he makes it or, like, how good his explanation, about halfway through, I realized that I have just tuned out and I'm, like, thinking about the Muppets or something. And so then, like, when we have to actually start playing, I'm immediately like, so which one am I? And then he has to explain it all again as we play the actual turn. He is a saint.
Does the same thing.
Austin does
like,
that
at this
to
point,
you
I
too?
don't know.
Austin's very also big into board games, not so much the super long ones, just like board games. And I just personally hate board games. So every time he tries to get me to play a board game, I'm terrible in that I don't listen to the rules and I will purposefully cheat. If I can.
You're the worst.
I don't know. It's like you drag me into this and you're gonna face the consequences.
I feel so bad for Austin because I would be like, no, but like, no, like this is no big deal. It's fine because it's just a board game. But also, like, how dare you?
I mean,
it would make me feel big.
I like to not listen to 1 second of instruction and then win the first couple times, which always really annoys him.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Because, like, I'm good at guessing like short-term strategies and, like, sort of figuring out what I'm supposed to do on the fly, because that's all I ever do in life. But then, like, once we sort of, like, understand the mechanics and can do more, like, it, like, opens it up for deeper strategy, then I start losing a lot. Once it becomes, like, a real board game.
And I am not bad at strategy. Andrew is just very good at strategy. And so, like chess, for heaven's sakes, the man beats me at Connect 4 every time we play. And every time.
Why are you playing Connect 4?
Shut up, Kate! We're very cool! It's like one of the game app things on our phones. So we can, like, play.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we play Mancala a lot. We play Battleship a lot.
Oh, you play Mahjong all the
I do
time.
play Mahjong all the
She's
time.
always telling me, like, I'm playing Mahjong, and I'm like, I don't understand.
It's
You're
something.
doing this.
It's something for me to do so I can actually listen to what you're saying. So it's like you're doodling. Yeah. I need to be able to be doing something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I totally understand that. I can't. If my hands aren't doing something, I can't deal.
Yeah.
This entire conversation, I've been building a birdhouse.
Aw, you still building your birdhouse?
This is a new birdhouse.
Kate's like starting to do cute little miniatures.
Little miniature birdhouses?
Like miniatures inside birdhouses.
Yeah.
So
she just took a birdhouse and made it into a log cabin. It has cute little curtains, and she made, like, log cabin, like, furniture and, like, stuff like that.
Oh, cute.
I'm gonna go collect some pebbles and I'm gonna make a stone fireplace for
Aww.
Is it still for birds? Or just for fun?
No.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with it when it's done. I'm gonna be real.
It doesn't matter. Like, the point is that you're doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Okay, so you started writing. You started publishing middle of 2014, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But nothing that. So okay, do you want the, like, whole long weird story, or?
Yeah.
For it.
So where do I start? Jeez. Okay, so I want to say, like, the beginning, like, first half of 2014, I was finishing up grad school, and I was gonna graduate, and I was gonna have to move back to Los Angeles and find a regular job. Like, I had been a grant writer before, like, working in nonprofits, and I didn't really want to do that again because I didn't love having an office job. And one day I read a blog post. I think it was on that blog Jezebel, which might still be around. I have no idea.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is? Okay. But they had like some story about these two women who had full-time jobs, like writing and selling dinosaur erotica on Amazon. Like short 5,000 word dinosaur erotica. And I read that and I was like sort of looking for jobs back in offices, and I thought to myself, I could do that. So I like figured it out. I never actually wrote about dinosaurs fucking because
that's a niche
like
group.
That is like literally bestiality, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Which I'm not particularly comfortable with. Okay, I'm actually not comfortable with it at all. If you read it, fine, I guess.
It's like anything else. Like, if it's not something that is tripping your trigger, you shouldn't be writing it. You know, like it's just
yeah, for sure. Like, yeah. I've tried to write things that like don't do it for me, and it's always like I can tell I'm just not getting it right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I started writing a bunch of like short erotica and like self-publishing it on Amazon because I think this was exactly when Kindle Unlimited started too.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I sort of made the deal with myself that like if I could make about as much as I would make from like a nonprofit grant writing job, which is not that much money, then like I wouldn't make myself get a real job. Mm-hmm. And it worked. And
that's
then
awesome.
Writing short erotica was not my jam because there's only a lot of it is very niche. Like, if you want to make money, you have to write the more like niche, like forbidden, taboo, like fetishy kinds of things. Like there's a lot of like pseudo incest railed by my stepdaddy, which is also not my jam.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing okay with like the short erotica, but there's also only so many ways that you can like fit tab A into slot B in like 5,000 words. And I feel like I've thought of them all. But anyway, I started writing like longer novella type stuff, and I ended up writing a whole bunch of like shifter novellas that they're still published. They're under Dakota West now, about like shifter threesomes, because it turned out that I was like threesomes were kind of my niche for a while as an erotica writer because I'm good at spatial relations.
Oh man,
is why I was good at it.
That's a skill. Because, like, so many pieces. Like, so many pieces, so many feelings.
Like, my skills include being good at parallel parking and being good at writing threesomes. And I think they're the same skill set.
That's amazing.
Like,
I am good at this because I can parallel park.
I was not ready for parallel parking.
I think it's a spatial thing. I think I'm just good at imagining where things go in space, whether they are dicks or cars.
Now I want to read a short erotica called Parallel Parking.
Yes. Are you working through the storyline in your head right now, Roxy? Is that what the silence is? She's been inspired. She's been inspired.
She's like, I must run with this.
No, I mean, the second you say that, I'm like, what would that story be? What would it be?
Exactly.
Like, giving a dude a blowjob to,
obviously a
like,
parking ticket involved.
Ooh, a parking ticket, yes!
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
or,
Kate's so good at conflict.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'll blow you if you don't give me this ticket. And then, like, obviously someone else shows up somehow.
Or I'm thinking there's some sort of bet about, like, whether or not somebody can parallel park a car properly, like, while getting blown.
Oh,
like,
that's
that sounds
interesting.
very high stakes.
Ooh.
That does sound very high stakes. Because no one parallel parks in the middle of the woods either. You know?
Oh, no.
It's a busy street.
If you're parallel parking, there's nowhere else to park.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, don't I know?
Oh, absolutely. And then they get ticketed. I'm very about this ticket.
But he'll throw it out if, Okay. Well, obviously, this is a brilliant story that needs to exist in the world. But, okay, so you're really good at spatial relations.
Yeah, and they're for threesomes. Or more sims, I guess. Have I written much more than a threesome? Not in years. But I would probably be good at putting those dicks in the right place, too.
I'm really good at dicks.
But yeah, so I wrote... But imaginary, I mean, like, I'm fine at rolling. but like the imaginary ones are like very really shine, you know. Sorry.
No, you're hilarious. You're fine. You should hear our conversation when we were talking about writing romance, like, sex scenes. And that was, like, that aired shortly after my grandparents were like, oh, Amanda has a podcast? And by Amanda, I mean Marty. Gosh darn it. So, I gotta stop. Poor Kate.
Just put your friggin' social security number on the podcast already.
But yeah, so, no, you're safe. You're safe. Go ahead and talk about dicks however you want. So.
Sure. So I wrote a whole bunch of shifter dick. I don't know, I was like kind of, for a while, I was kind of like following trends because like self-publishing and indie publishing, especially coming from like the erotica side of it, is very like follow these trends, publish a lot of books, like step for profit. I was doing that for a while, and I guess I kind of still am to some extent, although like trends are much stronger, especially in Kindle Unlimited and with like shorter stuff. So I wrote a bunch of shifters, and then there was the like 2016 bad boy boom. And I don't know how long you guys have like been in the scene.
I wanted to be in the scene in 2016, but I still hadn't found it, for one thing. And also I was pregnant for my daughter and like had just had her. So my brain went offline.
Conducive to writing anything.
It's hard.
Turns out. But yeah, so then like I guess bad boy romance was like the big huge thing, which is all just like man-chest covers and super alpha bad boys who there was a lot of mafia. There was the summer where it was just like all sports romance all the time. Like Sabrina Page, who I don't think has written anything in several years, was like king of Amazon. And it was just like a very weird but fun time to be an indie author because it sort of felt like you could write any wild thing you wanted, and as long as there was enough sex and enough like man chest, then it would do really well. Which is like both fun and like you get tired of it.
I have heard people like talk about how much things have changed in indie publishing from in the past like 5 years.
Oh, so much. Yeah. A lot, I think. I shouldn't admit this in public on a podcast, but like, I feel like now you're expected to like be like have basically like traditional publishing quality. Like you're supposed to have arcs ready 3 months before. I never do. And like a professional cover, and you're supposed to put your stuff up on NetGalley and do all this reaching out to other authors. And like, it's been now really hard to tell the difference between an indie author and a trad pub author.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Back then, like, there were books that I wrote that I finished at like 3 a.m. the night before I released them, which like is not a good way to live a life, let me tell you. Like, don't do that. I don't know why I didn't push it back. Like, there's no reason. But like, I kind of got away with that for a really long time of just like writing wildly and then publishing, and like I feel like standards were lower and I got away with a lot, which led to me like thinking that I could just do this all the time, and I can't.
You can't now because like standards and expectations have changed?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
That's something that's definitely, I think, like the whole expecting super professional quality that normally would demand like a whole team of people working on it from just one person is something that's kind of happening all over in every type of gig economy. Like, we're seeing it everywhere. Like, I don't want to turn this into like an economics.
No, but that's interesting. That's a very good point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's as like the gig economy has taken over more of the regular economy, like that's becoming more
absolutely. Yeah. And so it's interesting to see how that's affected indie publishing and how it's kind of morphed to reflect traditional publishing in a lot of ways.
But you made a really good point of like this level of product would normally take lots of people to accomplish, and so I feel like a lot of times people are like, well, why would I choose traditional over, personally this has been my mentality, why would I choose traditional over indie when I'm still wearing so many hats? You also kind of aren't, you know, like you also don't have to line up every like single thing.
You hear about people who've been traditionally published talking about how things used to have like a bigger team and more effort putting behind launching books and doing the marketing, and now a lot of it's being put on the author to be on TikTok and, you know, be on all the social medias and basically do all the same things that indie authors are doing to push their brands. Or not brands, just books.
I mean, but we are a brand. Like,
yeah, no, I hate that I keep using the word brand.
But like I think about that all the time when I look at my Instagram, particularly because it definitely looks like someone who's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like has made all those Instagrams. Does that make sense? Like there isn't any single like color through. There isn't any sort of aesthetic. It is definitely like
I get you because I know a couple of our friends do the Instagram really well, and it looks so cohesive.
Yeah.
I try for like a month and then I'm like, okay, never picking this up again.
Yeah,
I do not have the energy to consistently do it.
I feel like I'm really good at like short-term attention on particularly social media where I can like, okay, this is what I do. This is how I do it. Okay, follow steps A, B, C, put it out. And I've got like 5 weeks of that before I'm like, I will see you in 3 months. You know?
Yep.
Absolutely.
It's so hard.
When things are fun and new, I'm great at them. And the minute they become like tedious and old and boring, I'm like,
oh yeah.
But surely something else is fun and new, right?
Okay, so how do you get more reach? You know what I mean? Like that is always like on my mind is like because I still haven't put my debut out. And so when the debut goes out, I'm not going to have funds for ads or anything. So like I'm going to rely on social media and I'm going to rely on like my network.
Yeah.
That's kind of it.
I'm the worst person. I mean, the thing is that what I'm about to say will not help you at all. I just want you to know that. This will not be a helpful thought. But like, I feel like you can do all the advertising in the world, and all the paid stuff and all the like getting out there on TikTok. But the thing that will really like the thing that sells the books the hardest is like word of mouth. Is people reading your book and telling other people to also read that book.
Yeah.
The only reason I ever read books is because somebody with good taste tells me to read a book. And like, I never go book shopping. Like I don't. Ever. That's not a thing I do. Like, I just don't. But, like, if the right person, like, I have a couple of really good friends who, like, I guess do go book shopping. If they tell me to read a book, like, I'll just do it sight unseen. Like, I won't even read the blurb. That is one of my favorite reading experiences is when someone I trust gives me a recommendation and I know nothing about the book going into it. Like, that is one of my favorite reading experiences is to know nothing about it and then beginning to end read this book. Yeah, usually I'll be like, what's it about? And she'll be like, it's about like XYZ thing. And I'll be like, great. Because there's like a couple things I can't handle reading. But I think most of my friends already know what those things are. Exactly. People gushing about a book is always going to be the best way to sell a book. I feel like there are authors who have mastered manufacturing that, and I do not know how. Is that what a street team is? I think it is what a street team is. No. I'm thinking of Lucy Score because I just listened to her on Spa Girls and how she was talking about her like Facebook group and how like interactive it was and like the energy that like that space had. And it was clearly something that she really enjoyed doing was interacting with these people that read her books, that are excited about books like her books. You know what I mean? Like it was really cute how much energy she had in it. But like that is the first thought in my mind is like you said, manufacturing that excitement in that conversation. Yeah, because I feel like I have readers who are excited for my books and I have no idea how to like harness that excitement and like turn it into more book sales. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, thanks.
You love this? Look at this. Look, here's more.
Well, I will say, like, I don't know how to manufacture this, but like at this point, I've told multiple people to read your books. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Like, I just had a friend. Yeah, I just had a friend text me, direct message, whatever, and she's like, "Hey, thank you so much for that recommendation. I absolutely loved it, and she particularly loved your sex scenes because they are fire."
Thank you.
So I totally see what you're saying. So I think the point is like how I can deconstruct this is write a good book that people want other people to read and experience with them. And that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always the best. That's like the thing you have to do if you're going to market, right? Like, I don't think that books sell a lot of copies if they don't have some nugget of, like, compellingness about them. Not sure that's the word. Let's not talk about it.
Okay.
But, like, I mean, I've read books that I didn't like that were, like, super popular, but I feel like I can always see, like, what compels people to be into them, even if it's not my personal jam.
It kind of reminds me of Theodora Taylor's concept of universal fantasy, where, like, the ingredients can be correct, but if they're not used correctly, they don't taste right.
Yeah, or, like, if you get something a little bit, it can really go off the rails. Which I think is, like, the difference between, like, when a book really hits and when a book doesn't hit. But I still have trouble. Like, I feel like I'm pretty good at understanding and like deconstructing a book that doesn't really work for me. Like, that's not a problem. And I'm much worse at like breaking down a book that like really does work for me.
Yeah.
Interesting.
When something is bad, you can kind of tell why it's bad. But when something like is really good and really gets you, it's like impossible to see. But so like I sort of think of writing as like marionette. Okay. This is gonna be weird. Sorry. So like when a book like isn't very good, you can sort of like see the strings on the book and like see the author like deciding which strings to pull and how and when and like their decision process sort of like on the page for you. And so you're like, okay, you made this person do this then so that they would do this later and then feel this way here. Like, okay, I get it. But when a book is really good, it's just like there's a puppet on the stage dancing and nobody's controlling it. And you're like, is this magic? I think this is magic. Fuck.
Like, so,
you know, I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So like there's this thing that, so I went to film school and nothing came out of it, but it has like really opened like the way that I look at media in general. And so when you watch a badly made movie, you know, like have you ever seen The Room?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've seen a bad movie.
Oh yeah.
And you know how like the cuts are terrible
with all the spoons and all that.
Spoons.
The room. You're tearing me apart.
No. Lisa, you're tearing me apart.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Like your quintessential bad movie where like I always think of the sex scene where like they're just cutting back and forth between these two shots and they're playing them over and over again, and it just feels like you're trapped in this awful moment.
You are.
Because it's like, oh god, they're reusing shots.
And you're like,
it's never gonna end.
There's no way that's a good angle and her back hurts on the stairs. Like,
oh, absolutely.
It's terrible.
But like you can see the cuts when they flip from one shot to another. Because it's janky, it's awkward, it's badly timed.
Yeah.
And when you're watching a good movie with good editing, that you don't even notice the cuts. But they're still there, you know? And so it's like, do you know how to like, you know, like theater hands, like what on a stage?
Yeah.
A good theater hand will never be seen. You know, the people who rearrange the sets when the curtain closes for 30 seconds. Or, you know, slips under a piece of furniture to move stuff around. You know, like exactly. It's about that invisibility of the mechanics. And so I think bad things are just the mechanics are exposed, like you're talking about.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Like, so yeah, like books that, and even like, there are some really enjoyable books with the mechanics fully visible. Like, and it doesn't always bother me, but the books that are really just like fucking transcendent are the ones that you're just like, how did they do that?
And, like, I think that's kind of the part of, like, something that's so transcendent is that it wraps you so much up in the story and what it's about that you're not even looking for the mechanics. So you wouldn't, like, you know, like those movies where someone points out, here's a light or here's the microphone and it's clearly in the shot. And it's like, oh, I didn't even notice it because I was enjoying this thing on the other side of the screen.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it always, books like that, like, magical good stagehand books, they always freak me out a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I read a lot of books and like I read a lot of very enjoyable books where like, but my author brain is like always kind of working in the background.
Absolutely.
To be like,
oh
here's like this plot point, or like I guess this is a thrust of the midpoint love, or this is a, what are they called? Like pinch point or cohesion or the meet cute. The really good ones like shut that part of my brain off, and then I'm like, I just read something amazing and I don't know how they did it, and I would like to know, because I would like to also do that. I don't know how they did it, and that I think that means I can't figure out how to ever do that myself. And like that always, like, it's like a good book panic.
Yeah.
Like really good books throw me into this. I might be a little off. Yeah, I'm always sort of like, I want to be able to do this myself, and I don't even know where to start.
But the thing is like, you can only look at your work from your own eye and seeing all the ways that you did that. And like, that's one of the things that makes editing so hard, right? But like, a reader doesn't look at your book the same way that you do. It's also that highly critical eye of everything we read as writers that makes writing feel so daunting sometimes. You know, it's that, like you said, that like that high crash of, oh my god, I love this book, it was everything, I was so amazed, and now my imposter syndrome is here, you know. Like,
yeah.
But also, like, I wonder, because I just read the beginning of your book and I remember being impressed with a lot of things in like the first couple of chapters that I was like, wow. Like I just had like 2 days ago, I think I was having a fun little breakdown about a contemporary romance I had tried to write, and I was like, none of it works, you know. Why did I choose all these things that don't go together and don't work together? And I was, you know, having a hard time figuring out how to make the things I like mesh together. And then I'm reading your book and there's all these things that I like, and I'm like, oh my god, so she's got all these things that she likes that she puts in there that she just blended together perfectly. But it's not just throwing a bunch of things into a pot and turning on the blender, you know? It's like, I remember thinking I always panic too much if one character is like, so the book that I'm reading, Enemies with Benefits.
I think I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
You think?
I'm sorry.
Good. You know, it's amazing. I don't remember the author's name, but
Yeah.
What is it? Was it because it opens with her on the worst day possible, and like we're learning about so much about this guy who's never. I don't know if he's ever going to come back, but it feels like he's not.
Violet and Eli.
I don't know.
Violet and Eli.
Violet and Eli. Well, so she's on the date with the random snooty guy
who she was set up by Adelaide, right? Her best friend, if I'm right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm like, we're spending basically an entire chapter with the heroine, getting to know her and feel her voice and really appreciate her without getting bored of her because we're on her side, because this guy is such an asshole, and it's such a relatable moment at the way the date just gets steadily worse and you're like, oh my god, and now he's left, hasn't he? And then see, like, if I was writing something, I'd be like, oh my god, the love interest has not been introduced yet. I'm taking too long to introduce him. And I would be having a full-on panic about that.
I have to force myself to chill. Do I have a philosophy about this? Probably not. I mean, there's like lots and lots of books where like some of my favorite books have like sex in the first chapter. And just, like, immediately have that meet cute, and some of them they don't meet until like chapter 3. Hard to say like which is gonna be which. And it depends a lot on like the pacing, and I don't know. I'm a big fan of like having people meet in the first chapter a tiny bit, but like not fully having
not
them
quite enough.
Like meet.
Yeah, like they kind of pass each other by.
Yeah, or like I think a lot of my books they sort of like there's some glaring across a room or something. That sort of thing.
Well, and that was something that introduced Eli so well too, is we already knew Violet was having a wretched freaking night. We had sympathy for her, and then now her freaking
it's like
rival,
who could be worse than that guy
showing up, not being ugly, like, you know, like that a-hole just showed up just to make tonight worse. And it was just a really great like welcome to the world, like take a seat, you know, like it was I was invested instantly.
That is maybe the like 3rd or 4th version of the opening to that book. Like,
ooh, okay, I want to hear what like the first 3 versions were. Because like I cannot tell you how many times I've agonized over striking out a first chapter and being like, okay, let's try this again.
Oh yeah, no, this book took forever to start. Like it went through a lot of iterations. There was the iteration where like Violet was like a hippie artist type.
Oh wow.
And yeah. And she was like, I don't exactly remember because I never got farther than like a little bit into this, but it started with her like smashing pennies for jewelry on the train track, and then like
I love that.
driving to the farmer's market and like fighting with Eli over a parking spot.
Okay.
Like this was a very early version that I scrapped pretty fast. And then I think there were a couple other versions of the date. And I feel like there was one more that I'm not remembering right now. But yeah, this is like not the first version of this starting.
So I want to know, like, do you feel like you just started the first chapter over and over again and then you wrote the rest of the draft?
Yes.
Or was it like you had the draft and then you just kept going back and...
Oh no, I had to like restart it 3 times.
And it just radically changed the whole story each time.
Kind of. My writing process is a little chaotic. Because like I'm not a messy first draft person. If something is wrong in a book, like I can't get past it. Like I can't, if I think that like the first chapter like doesn't have the right vibe or like doesn't have the right, I mean like after I finish a book I always go back and like edit the first couple of chapters because like things change and you need to like have to do a lot of editing there, but like I don't know, if something is like deeply wrong in a book, I like can't move past that until I've like figured it out. Like in the book that I'm reading, right, I'm like most of the way through right now, I like just had to go back 7 chapters and like rewrite a scene because like it was just wrong. I had just gotten it wrong. And so like I had to rewrite that, and like now it's much easier to go back and like let that sort of filter through the next bunch of chapters. I feel like I'm talking very weirdly here. But like,
no, you're good. Like, I'm like totally see it.
And it's also, I think it's because I don't really plot. Like, I understand that there are people in this world who like have incredibly detailed 20,000 word plots and like know what's going to happen in each chapter. Sometimes I have like a page of like loose plot points sketched out. Sometimes, but like that, like I don't know. I find it impossible to like know what people are going to do or like understand what characters like relationships are unless I just write it down.
Yeah.
Like it sort of comes out in the writing. And then I'm like, oh, this is their vibe. Like this is how they interact. Like this is how their relationship is going to be. But like I can't know that until I write it. Or like plotting doesn't count as writing in my brain, I guess.
Yeah, because it's like the economy of time for me is like if I'm plotting, I'm spending time on that when I should just be writing it. Is that not the way you feel about it?
Yeah. I don't even know at this point.
I also can't name, like, I can't know anything about these people unless I'm writing them. Like, I can't name them unless I've been writing them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I need to work out their voice in order to, like, know what they're gonna do. And so plotting, like, I used to try plotting a lot harder. Like, the first, 7 books that I wrote, I was like, okay, this time I'm gonna plot so well, and then writing will go so easily. And what happens when I plot really extensively is I throw out most of the plot.
Uh-huh.
Because I get one chapter in and I'm like, well, none of this is going to work anymore. Like, I come up with good ideas, like, in the heat of the moment of writing and then just have to throw things away. So, like, I no longer trick myself into thinking I will plot.
You just dive into it.
Kinda. I feel like the process is different for every single book, which is a little frustrating because I would love to know how to do my job. And I feel like I don't.
I don't know. I think, like, with any art form, you have to be flexible. You just have to be willing to think about how you do things differently because you're creating story out of nothing. You're thinking words, putting them down, and now someone reads words and has story, right?
Right.
And it's not building a car. You're not following an assembly line, right? So as much as, like, I see what you're saying, and I think that, like, a lot of times plotters love their plotting so much that it's, like, the way I think about, okay, this is weird, but it's the way I think about eating pickles, right? I hate pickles. I hate them.
Go on.
But someone eats a pickle and they look like they are loving that pickle. They look like that is the best food they have ever eaten.
That's because pickle eaters are real weird.
Everybody loves like if someone
you guys
likes
like,
pickles,
okay,
they love pickles.
I like pickles. Pickles are great. You're both weird.
I only like fried pickles.
I don't like anything
like when
pickled.
They're in slices.
Mm-mm.
A pickle is like a food to me that like you can enjoy one bite of and then like no more.
But people like will eat that bite and they look like their eyes close. They are past this existence and they are in love, right? And so every year, I have never liked pickles. Every single year. And this year will be no different. At some point, I'm going to try a pickle. Because maybe this year I like pickles, right? And that's the way I see people who plot. They love plotting. And so it makes me feel like maybe this time I'll like it.
It should be fun.
Yeah, maybe this time it'll work for me.
It should be fun.
And it doesn't work. Like, my brain doesn't work for it. And so I think that there's, like, I hear people talk about plotting, and I hear people do plotting and how it helps them in their writing process, but it just doesn't work. Yeah. So it makes me want to try it, but it's not right. Pickles aren't for me.
Have you guys ever taken, do you know Becca Syme, who teaches this class called Write Better Faster?
I have not done it.
Okay.
Or anything like that. I have read her Writer You Have to Quit, and I loved it.
Oh, yeah. She's great. But, like, I definitely recommend taking Write Better Faster if you can, because she is very good at, like, showing you how you are, kind of, and she's very good at emphasizing that, like, you should work with the brain that you have and not the brain that somebody else who, like, is better at writing or more successful or, like, fill in the blank with whatever here it, like, has. And so, like, I took her class in, like, early 2020, right before I just burned out completely and didn't write for a year and a half.
I mean, my God, 2020, we've all been through the gauntlet, you know?
What a shit show, you guys.
This has been rough.
But, like, it was really helpful in terms of, like, kind of helping me just finally understand that I'm never going to be a plotter, and I'm never, like, because of, like, my various strengths and just, like, the way that my brain works is, like, I need to be consuming a lot of things. Like, I need to be reading a lot or watching a lot of, like, narrative TV or honestly socializing with other humans. I've told my friend this a couple times, but, like, my brain, I'm not necessarily, like, I don't really create things. My brain is more of a meat grinder. Like, I have to have a bunch of stuff going in to, like, grind up and then turn into books.
Yeah,
and
so
also
2020
just, like,
this whole thing has not been helpful for the meat grinder.
Yeah, it was bad for the meat grinder. No sausage got made. But yeah, stuff like that, or just, like, for me, a lot of it was accepting that a lot of, like, my thinking, a lot of my writing process, like, happens more or less subconsciously while I, like, stare at a wall or take a walk or, like, do something else. Like, if I have a problem and then, like, just go take a walk and think about something else for a while, I will often, like, come up with a solution to it by accident. Feels like magic, but is just the subconscious working. You just gotta give it a minute.
Like, your brain needs a lot of input and then a lot of digestion. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. So yeah, she has you do your, like, there's some company that tells you your, like, 34 intellectual strengths, I guess. And I'm forgetting all the words for this right now.
It's, because I've been listening to the Rebel Author podcast, which is really fun. It's done by Sasha Black. Oh, it's really fun. It's Sasha Black, and she just kind of monologues for a while, and, like, it's all by herself, and then she does an interview, and she talks a lot about Clifton strengths. Boom! Pulled that one out of my hat.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
I was not going to get there.
I wish I could remember the website that it's on, but yeah, because it's at the top of my mind because I've been listening to this podcast, and it's really fun. Totally suggest.
But yeah, like, sort of learning all that stuff has made me understand my writing process a little better. Like, apparently my top strength is called restorative, which is, like, the strength that wants to fix everything, which is one of those things that I'm not sure that I would have said that about myself, but it makes so much sense, like, now that I realize it.
Like, your whole, like, having a clean first draft?
Yep.
Yeah.
There it is. Like, yeah, like, my first drafts, I go back and change things, but, like, I've never, like, fully reworked a book that I have thrown out 50,000 words just in the garbage. Sometimes you have to. Like, I won't say I'll happily do that, but I will do it without a lot of angst. If, like, things are just not right, like, I can't deal with it.
Oh, yeah.
It just has to go.
My process is rewriting a lot and then having a crappy first draft and then rewriting more. So yeah, throwing out 50,000 words, like, yeah, absolutely. Of course you do. Every single time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So.
Occasionally I tell other authors that and they just, like, sort of turn pale. And they're like, we can't talk about that. That sounds terrible. And I'm like, well, it kind of is, but it's kind of, like, freeing.
Poor Kate. She has a manuscript that she has talked about a number of times. I'm like, you should just rewrite it.
Oh yeah, you say this to me, like, once a week. Just rewrite the entire
book.
book.
Go for it. Why not?
Just throw it out.
Steal the paragraphs you can steal and just start over. Like, just go for it.
I'm all for starting over. Like, you just gotta clean slate that shit sometimes.
The thought gives me hives because I'm so loath to touch something that's, like, I've, like, closed the lid on.
Yeah,
I got my first draft. I try to make as clean as I possibly can, and then I grit my teeth through the whole editing process, and then I'm like, okay, it's done. We don't touch it again. We're not looking at it again. It doesn't exist.
I do that, and then years later, if I, like, reread something, I'm just like, I should change that. This doesn't make any sense. Oh, I hate that now. Like,
it's such a
God. I got a message the other day from, like, a short book I wrote years ago and didn't really put all that much effort or thought into. And someone messaged me about it and they were like, you should change these things. And I was like, ooh, okay. And then I'm just like, I'm like internally, I'm like, I'm gonna forget about you the moment we stop talking because I cannot return to something that old. Yeah. But also, like, who the hell are you?
Like, here's an opinion that's fucking rude.
Yeah, no, it was very rude, but it was also like, oh my god. Like, I don't care that it's factually incorrect. Like, I just cannot be bothered at this point.
Yeah.
And it's fiction.
Yeah, occasionally people will just, like, tell me how they think that I should have written a book. I mean, I never respond because, like, it's hard to not respond because I am a mouthy bitch, but I just never do. Because, like, I don't know, I'm gonna say something that isn't impolite to them, and then they're gonna screenshot it and, I don't know, get it on CNN or something. And then I'm gonna look like the asshole when, like, they tried to tell me how to write a book.
Yeah. When, like, the soundbite isn't extended.
Yeah. Like,
it's you remember the Scooby-Doo movies when Fred says, I think Coolsville sucks. No, just me.
No, you are younger than us.
I know.
Kate is like,
you guys are talking about having your kids and taking care of your kids,
is
and I'm
Kate
like,
a young person?
Kate's a youngin'.
I'm 26.
I know.
You're so small.
I know. So when you're
no, I'm not.
I'm a big kid now.
I hang out with all older people. I'm cool. I'm old too.
Aww. When you were talking about, like, I don't know how long you guys have been in the scene, like 2016, I'm like, Kate was probably graduating from high school around then. Like,
oh no. I graduated high school 2014.
Oh god.
Okay.
Older than that.
You're right. That 2 years really saved your bacon.
Made such a difference.
It's wild that you graduated high school the year that I, like, finished grad school, which I went back to in my late 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting here like, oh, so you've got really a perspective on, like, how Amazon has, like, not Amazon, but, like, indie publishing has evolved. Because that's, like, 5-6 years? I'm not doing math.
2014 was 8 years ago, which is horrifying.
That is crazy.
I was trying not to say 10 years because I thought that would overshoot too much.
Not by much.
No, I mean, like,
time is crazy.
This is about the longest job I've ever had by, like, 5 years. And, like, I guess at this point, like, the majority of my adult life has been, like, having this job, which seems weird.
That is
because I still think of myself as somebody who's, like, 2 years out of an office job. And apparently I'm not.
That's, like, one of the weird things, because, like, okay, so in my mind, like, I'm gonna be 35 in April, and in my mind, like, someone will be like, okay, so Kate, you're 26, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm only 4 years older than you. Because in my brain, I'm stuck at 30, right? Like, it was such easy math. I just want to stay there. Like, I'm totally fine being 35. That's not the problem. It's like, okay, so I'm 9 years older than you. It's not easy math.
I'm very certain that 1980 was 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Like, I'm positive about that.
Absolutely. 100%.
I keep thinking, oh, I'm 24, but, like, that's because, like, the pandemic started around then, and I had, like, just graduated college around then, and so it was, like, that's kind of, like, where my mind got stuck. So to me, it's, like, these 2 years just didn't even happen.
These 2 years have been so weird.
They weren't lived. They didn't happen.
I mean...
They shouldn't count.
Like you said,
yeah, no,
like,
they really shouldn't. I'm all against.
So much of my input is being around people. Like, my energy has been very weird. And so, like, I'll get on the phone with my friends and all I can talk about are the books I'm reading or the books I'm writing. I've got nothing else, you know? So.
I fully understand the feeling. It's like, what TV shows have you and your life partner / roommate been watching? Oh, the same ones as you? What do you think? They're fine? Okay, great. Wow.
Yeah. So we've accomplished everything we can accomplish in this conversation. What TikToks have you seen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what have you been up to? Also nothing? Perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's hard to, like, keep filling that, like, I hate the phrase creative well, but I definitely talked to you, Marty, about this before, because I did a lot of driving before the pandemic. I had an internship that was an hour away, and so I would drive to and from it and just have all this thinking time. And I think, like, when I would get there, I would have all this stuff I wanted to write, and when I left, I would have all this stuff I wanted to jot down into notes. And now I don't drive anywhere, and it's like I don't think anymore. Like, I don't want to say I don't think anymore, but like I don't have that time to just be and not trying to fill that time. I don't know how. I don't know, like when you were talking, Roxy, when you were talking about when you just go and take a walk and then your answer for whatever's blocking you in your book just comes to you. That's what I was thinking of, like that driving time. I was like, yeah, that's kind of like what that was for me.
Yeah, I've tried to like start building that into my days a little bit more, because it's so tempting to be like, okay, I always have to be doing something. But the truth is that you don't. I used to, so like before I had a kid in 2018, right? Yeah. And before that, like, I had more free time.
Surprise.
But I used to go like,
wild.
I used to be a runner. Like, I don't really run anymore because running is hard.
Running is hard.
Lately I've been really into spin class. And like, running is a very solo activity that you have to, like, getting out the door to run takes a lot of willpower, and I am very short on that these days. So I've been doing a lot of spin classes lately, because you have to be at a place at a time, and then someone tells you what to do. And like, that's very, like, it's physically demanding, but like, doesn't require very much willpower, as opposed to like, with running, like, I could back out of going for a run at any time, and there's no consequence. But yeah, like, I try to sort of give myself that time and like build it into my day of like, I'm just gonna take a walk around the block and listen to music and chill out for a minute. Or I fold a lot of laundry when I fix well, I don't fold a lot of laundry ever, but like dumb household chores, as long as you don't get like too invested in them, are good, because like you don't need to think about folding laundry. You just need to fold the laundry.
My problem has been that I want to have those times, but like I can't. Okay, for one, the two kids factor is,
yes, my God.
And like Jude's 5, and so she like will randomly ask me questions that like just completely suck all the energy out of me, right? Like I'm trying to think, and she's like, Mom, what part of the brain controls memory? Like, I have no blasted idea.
I
have no idea.
Like, I've never had a good thought about writing, like, while also caring for my child.
Yeah, and like, Andrew works, 12-hour days typically, like something around there. Ugh. And so it's me and the kiddos. And so it was like morning walks, but it's so cold right now, and it's getting warmer, but it's still blasted cold. And I can't get me out the door. I can't get me out of bed. I can't do it. I don't have the energy for it. And so I'm like, well,
I totally understand.
If I can't get me out of bed, like, there's probably a reason I need the rest, right? And so I'm just kind of like accepting that that's my body being like, no, just keep sleeping. But so like folding and like stuff like that, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to books, I'm listening to music, and I'm just not giving my mind the time to rest on input to like work through something. And that's really hard, because the distraction's really nice from like the monotony of my life being the same thing over and over.
I mean, a lot of the time, the only way I can make myself do chores is like to listen to a podcast, because my brain is just like, a lot of the time, the only way I can make myself do tedious chores, like the dishes or whatever, is by listening to a podcast. Otherwise, it's just so boring.
It's so boring. And again, like, I've done the dishes already today. Like, I am not someone who can do the same thing over and over and find satisfaction in having that job done.
Like, it's hard.
It's hard.
This whole pandemic, like, we're all feeling so alone and trapped in our houses and all that, And listening to podcasts was, for me, like, a way to feel kind of like I was getting my social time in.
Same, yeah.
For sure.
And then kind of they just crept up and took over all of my thinking time. And so I just live with my earbuds in now, just like constantly absorbing some kind of audio medium.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And it's like, I don't know how I'm going to come back from this.
Yeah, because my attention span has definitely been affected. Like, I have a hard time with silence now because of this coping mechanism. There's going to be a lot of weird things to come back from, like hugging. Hugging's going to be very strange. I don't know how I'm going to do it.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about a lot of things now.
How long is this? Oh no, it's too long.
Hour 20.
No, do you guys, is there like an ending thing, or like? Do I have to recommend anything?
Yes, you do. We've been trying to end a podcast episode with a kind of like writing advice or writing thoughts to live by that you're that like just what you've been working with this week. What have you been kind of doubling down on, or like really trying to, or something that like made you realized about writing that, or you're writing that I know we've been talking about like the whole writing process and like the way that you're aware of what makes you tick, but it's like just like a thought.
Do you want us to go first? Because you are on the spot. You can also pass. We won't like hold you hostage.
Oh no, we're absolutely gonna hold her hostage.
You guys go first. Tell me your writing thoughts.
You go first, Kate.
God damn it. She keeps doing this.
1, 2, 3, nut it.
Well, so yesterday I finished a short project that I had kind of left abandoned for a while, and I had been feeling really badly about not continuing it and just having this thing that was almost done, and I didn't have like the thinking for it. I don't know, it's kind of weird because I also thought that having it finished would make me feel better, and it did not.
Why didn't it feel better?
Well, it's definitely just because I've been having too much caffeine lately, but that's like a whole different thing. You know, like just too much just makes you on edge.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like I put so much focus on this idea that of finishing projects, get it done. And I put so much weight into thinking that's what's going to make me happy. And I think I got like personally, I'm going to try to pull back from this idea that I have to have more things done. You know, that I'm like, everyone else has so many books out there and I need to catch up.
Like relax on the idea of backlist.
Yeah. Okay. You know, like I'm just gonna let it happen in its own time and try. Like I say this, but I'm absolutely just gonna keep doing.
I mean, but
I understand.
But at least this week, what remains of it.
Well, and also like, okay, so you're aware of it right now. So next time you are like in that mindset, like maybe you'll be able to bring out this awareness, maybe not, and it's okay. Whatevs, you know. It's okay.
Yeah.
So my piece of advice, I don't know. I'm just so bogged down in this last quarter. I don't know. I don't know how to fix the problem I'm in right now.
What problem are you in? Is it a writing problem? Will you tell us? Can we help? Maybe.
Ooh, is Roxie gonna?
Maybe my advice is ask for help.
That's such a cop out. Tell us what your problem is.
I'm probably not gonna solve it, but also like, I feel like sometimes telling people about a problem shakes something loose.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh yeah, soundboarding is so valuable.
I feel like half the time I realize like how to fix something is directly after I complain on our Discord that like, hey, I'm stuck. Yeah. And then I'm like, never mind, I'm fine. But I've been stuck for days now.
Yeah, exactly.
Bitching about things always makes it better.
I'm doing my developmental edits. In the developmental edits, I have changed a lot of plot point and a lot of emotional arc. Now I am in Owen's mind directly after the breakup, and I know where he has to end up for that grand gesture, and it is like in the wallow emotionally, but he's like numbing himself, right? So he is using like he is just never letting himself be still in order to not cope with like the place that he needs to be at.
Okay, so something needs to make him sit still for a minute so he can really feel his feelings.
And he has fallen today. Or like he's using running, right?
Oh, okay.
So
does he like twist his ankle?
He fell on his hip, and so he did go for a run and shouldn't have. And so I guess the physical pain, because like the physical pain is like what opens the door for him to like feel the emotional pain. I don't know. I think you're onto something with he has to sit still. And so I think I'm rewriting this chapter entirely. I know you love when I say that.
God damn it. Don't do that.
I don't know what to do, Kate. I don't know what to do. I'm trapped. So but that's where I'm at on it. And I don't know. I'm like, do I write the grand gesture and just move past it? Like, I'm stuck. And I don't have time to be stuck.
What is the grand gesture?
Tell you.
Like,
you'd have to cut it.
You can't. Oh.
That's too much.
Oh, right, okay.
Sorry, I didn't hear you, Roxy.
I didn't say anything. I just made a weird noise.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Well, please repeat your weird noise for me. I would love to hear it.
I feel like I offered help, and now I'm like, I don't know either. Like, I not really knowing the characters. It's hard to say like, oh, make him fall and then hurt his knee and be like, I love her.
Yeah, no, maybe he needs to like really miss something about her.
Well, all of his dogs
like,
are miserable because she's not there. Yeah. So like, there's a lot of external things happening around him, and she like texted like, "Hey, I'm gonna grab the rest of my stuff while you're at work," and like, there's a lot of external pushes here.
And so you don't know why one of them can't be what makes him snap? That makes it sound like he's going to go on a rampage. I think
part of my problem is like this chapter is so short right now, and I feel like I've like ran it out. You know what I mean? Like how we were talking about how we like our chapters to kind of feel somewhat the same length.
Yeah. My go-to for like that moment tends to be like another person. That tends to be where I like get the friend or the brother to like come talk some sense into a dude or a lady who's fucking up.
Yeah.
Because I feel like an internal monologue probably isn't going to get you there.
Well, and I also feel like so much of him is internal anyway. Like, I feel like that's part of my problem with this chapter is like, I have snuck in him interacting with his dogs and his coworker and like stuff like that. But like ultimately,
maybe he runs into something like a telephone pole.
Sorry.
Put up a literal roadblock for him.
I was thinking that his friend, who is now going to be Remy, I think. I'm changing the guy's name. I'm thinking that Remy is going to give him a phone call.
Roxy.
What was that?
We need your opinion.
Okay, go.
Remy being short for Jeremy. Are you for or against this?
I mean, sure. I've never heard that before.
Okay, because I had never heard it before either, but I have a friend that does that. And so... That's why I was like, I just assumed this existed. And his name could just be Remy, like R-E-M-Y, or R-E-M-I.
Yeah.
And that'll probably just be what it is.
Real name.
Yeah.
That's absolutely banana pants to me that there's a real person out there doing this.
I feel like there was another thing that I just, like, racked your existence with. No, you ruined my life when you told me that Michigan was shaped like a lobster claw. Get the F out of here.
Is it? It kind of is. I mean, but why would you see that instead of mitten?
Thank you! I swear she was just trolling me. She was like, oh, I guess it is kind of lobster claw shaped. Like, get out!
Is Michigan not known for its fantastic lobster?
No. Let me tell you, this is not the state to get lobster in.
The famous lake lobster.
It's a lake lobster, yes.
Yeah.
We're known for our freshwater lobster. Roxy, do you have a piece of writing advice?
The thing that I have been like struggling with lately and making myself do is skip time. I always have the urge to just like summarize every hour of every day in every book and just be like there are little logistical details that I feel like the author needs to know that the reader does not give one single shit about. But like, if I don't know it, then like things are gonna get weird. I've been making myself just like skip days and be like, and then it was Tuesday, and instead of being like, and on Monday we did this. Like, I've been reading a lot lately myself and realizing that like sometimes you just skip a couple days and it's fine. Like, I don't mind. No one minds. But like the urge to detail like what everyone is doing every day is very strong for me. And then to be like, and when they went home from the bar, like, so-and-so got a ride with so-and-so, and she was in the back seat, and then this other person, like, again, no one cares how anybody gets home from anywhere. Like, no one cares who gives you a ride. This is boring. Don't write it down. But I have this urge to, like, give all these things, and so lately I've been making myself be like, now it's 2 days later. Now it's 2 days later. We're fine. It's 2 days later. Like, and it's very hard for me to just, I don't know, not enumerate every second of every day sometimes.
I totally get that. And I think of, have you ever heard the podcast Heaving Bosoms?
Yes.
Okay.
I've listened to some episodes.
Okay. There was the Kiss Quotient episode. They were talking about how the characters made their date on like a Saturday and it was gonna be for Friday, and they're like, and then the author did this great thing where they didn't go through the rest of the week with us, they just started us right there on the date. And so like that was like a moment for me where I was like, oh yeah, I do like that as a reader. And so that has been really helpful for me as a writer, is like, where does the time have to be? Like, where is the actual thing happening that the reader cares about?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is something like, sorry, like insert my 2 bits because I have to.
That sounded really inappropriate.
Thank you.
I feel like I just... that was not.
I'm
me
sure
coming
you
on
said
to
a
you.
lot worse
You're
on this podcast. Please, Marty, I'm taking it. Not on the podcast. So I think in film, this is called like efficiency of like screen time. I know Marty has really latched onto this word efficiency when I talk about storytelling and like efficient narratives. If it's gonna bore the audience and if it's not absolutely necessary for this to be on screen, then you cut it. And it's like, it is that literally what you're talking about. Like, if we need to see this guy get into a taxi and drive up Main Street and then get out of the taxi and then go into the lobby of this building and then go up the elevator, when we could have just started with him in the elevator or even arriving at the floor he needs to be at, then like that's where we start.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's literally just about like, don't like it for screen time, at least it's about cutting things that aren't absolutely necessary. But it's so hard to tell, like, well, what's good pacing? Is it more suspenseful if we do see him get into the taxi?
Well, I think that just depends so much on genre too, though.
Yeah, like if there's some kind of suspense there,
exactly,
then maybe it's important.
Yeah.
Maybe if there's this cross-cutting to this moment of like someone trying to get out of the building while he's, you know, closing in on them, then that's absolutely necessary. But if we don't have that like prior knowledge about the scene, then yeah,
I love it. Nice.
And in romance, there's lots of like, for some reason, where do I start this? Like, for the past 6 months, I've always like been a romance reader, but for the past 6 months, I've been just like an insatiable binge romance reader. Like, I think I read like 25 books in February. Which is,
damn.
That's a lot of books. That's a lot more books than a reasonable person should be reading. I've been like a little intense about it lately. But I've also been rereading much more than usual lately. Like, I'm up until, I don't know, October of 2021, I wasn't a rereader, and then suddenly I was. But like, the things that I really like rereading are never the plotty ones. It's always like, the scenes I want to reread are like just relationship scenes.
Yeah.
It's like just the hurt comfort scene, or like just the scene where two people like have emotions and talk around them to each other. Just the sweet scene where they like talk on the phone together, like from different countries. Or like, yeah, like I just want to see like those scenes of people liking each other. And like, they do further the plot to some extent because it's romance and like people liking each other is the point of the book. But like, those, which may not like look super necessary, like those are the ones that I really find myself wanting over and over again. And so
those are the ones I think about when I think about a book that I've read, right? Like, like I think about the like feeling I felt reading it, or like the energy and the vibe between these two people. And
so I read the book Heated Rivalry for the first time like 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
Have you guys heard of this book? It's like a gay hockey romance. It's so good. It's just like, it's one of those books that I don't know why it's gotten stuck in my brain so hard, but like it has, and I've read it probably 15 times in like 3 weeks, which is a problem because I also like, I keep just like wanting to go reread like this one specific scene or this other specific scene, and then like accidentally reading half the book.
That's so sweet.
Which is like a real mood. Or like, I think I was like a little bit depressed, and like was like mildly depressed for a lot of like 2020 and 2021, and like my brain has recently like I started like coming out of it, and I'm just sort of like really intensely latching on to specific things for a while, and just because I like, it's when I'm depressed, it's hard to like get too excited about anything. And like it wasn't bad. Like I've been bad depressed before, and like this wasn't that. It was just sort of like a mild dampening of everything. But, like, coming out of it has just been, like, I've had these, like, obsessions like I did when I was 13 or 14. Weird hormonal stuff, I think. Mm-hmm. But, like, getting into fandoms, and now I'm just sort of like, all I want to think about is these hockey players who fall in love. That's all I want to think about. Like, it's been very weird.
It's just a very comforting place to be.
I guess? I don't even know if it's... I mean, I guess it's comforting. But yeah, I've been, like, rereading a lot lately and just, like, wanting the, like, emotional scenes and not necessarily the plot scenes. I forget what my point was.
No, we were talking about, like, giving the reader what they want based on genre. So I
yes. Okay.
I feel like you're there.
Right? Okay, good. I'm glad that I eventually made that.
And I think, because Kate and I have talked about essentially what I call plot, she calls character arc. And I think that is...
Oh, yeah.
that is so much to do with the genre. Like, if I was writing in any other genre, I don't think I would think of plot that way, right? That might be... You might have just put words to, like, why I think of it that way, because when I think back on a book, like, I'm particularly, in my mind right now, I'm thinking of Beard Science by Penny Reed. And
wait, which Beard Science?
Beard Science.
Oh, yeah, the book's great.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I love Cletus.
And that was one of the few books that, like, I've reread. And I was thinking of the scene when they're backstage at the competition, and it's just, like, you can, like, hear the electricity on the page, right? Like, there's just so much heat in that scene, and there's no touching. There's just intense look, and it's, like I'm thinking about it right now and I'm blushing. like it is just such a great scene. That's plot thrust to me. Does that make like clearly something is breaking loose in these two that is going to lead to the HEA?
To literal thrusting. Sorry.
See, and the first time I thought you just said interesting. So I was like, yep.
Yeah, it is interesting.
It was very interesting.
Yep. So Roxie, where can the listener find you? The one.
I have the listener.
We've been told by a couple people that we have more than one, so I have to acknowledge that we do have more than one. I thought it was
still just your... It's just Marty.
It's just my mom and Mika. Mika's adamant.
Oh.
Hi.
Mika says she listens.
She gave us receipts. So,
did she?
She did. She was like, I love how Kate in this past episode talked about Japanese literature, and Amanda's family came in to say goodnight. So yeah, she gave receipts. But Roxie, where can people find you?
Okay, I have a website which is roxienoir.com, and that's got all the stuff on it. I am on Twitter I think I'm at Roxie Noir. I'm on Instagram, and I think that's Roxie_Noir. Because for some reason, the regular one wasn't available. I have a Facebook group. They're called the Roxettes. They're real fun. I have a newsletter if you need more news from me. Yeah, Enemies with Benefits is the first Loveless Brothers book, and it is free on every storefront you can imagine, or at least most of them. And it's like an enemies to lovers book.
Work rivalry.
I forgot all my words immediately. Yeah, I write rom-coms with a bunch of banging. So probably by the time this drops, my next book called The 1 Month Boyfriend will be up for pre-order. Because that's coming out in late May. And that's, you guys have read Break the Rules? Or no, one of you, Marty has.
I'm reading it, yeah. It's Silas' story. I know, I'm so
1 Month Boyfriend is Silas' story. Which is part of why it's taken me so long, because before I started writing Break the Rules, I didn't know that Silas was going to get a book. And by the end, I was like, he has to get I don't know what to do, but I can't not write this man a book.
Yeah, no, agreed. Yeah.
Part of why it's taken so long is because I kind of freaked myself out a little bit of because I got a lot of feedback that was all we demand Silas's book right now, but also a lot of people have put their own spin on what they think his book should be, or who they think he should end up with, or that
because I
have
an opinion too.
Do you want to tell me I'm super interested in your opinion, just out of curiosity.
gathered I haven't finished the series, but I think he should end up with Adelaide.
Oh, that's super interesting. Did you know Adelaide has a story?
I didn't. No. And like that's the other
So
thing.
she's like, no, you're wrong.
She hands it to somebody else. It's called Redneck Santa Saves Christmas.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
It's like a fun short story. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll start wrapping my heart around the fact that they're not together. No, I'm joking. It's fine. It's totally fine. I'm excited for his story. Well, then, because like I need to get done with the Loveless series before I get to his story because
You've got time.
Okay, good. I mean, you say that, but it takes me a month to finish a book. So, but February was a short month. So.
It was. It's not fair. I shouldn't have read 40 books. 40? I don't think I read 40 books. I think I read like 20 books.
I mean, 25 is enough. So that's nearly a book.
A lot of them were like, one was just like a 15-book series that I just like fucking crashed all the way through. Mm-hmm. Like, I have some impulse control issues sometimes. I would pay $100 extra for a Kindle that just didn't turn on between midnight and 7 a.m.
Oh.
You could lock it.
Like, that would be amazing. I would pay extra for a Kindle that worked less. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, no, I'm very like, I need sleep or I'm going to be mean to my family tomorrow. So I can't do that.
I mean, that's true for me too. Like if I don't get enough sleep, my entire life goes off the rails. And I know this and have no respect for myself.
Yeah, I understand.
Like,
okay, so Silas is coming out. 1 month boyfriend.
Yeah, and it's called The 1 Month Boyfriend. It's gonna be great. Coming out late May. I'm also excited. This book has been like a long time in the making, but I think it's gonna be good, guys. I think you're gonna like it.
Yeah, you were tweeting about it earlier, where
it.
you were like, the banter is so great in this book. Like, who wrote this? Like,
sometimes I feel that if I like revisit a scene that has like really good banter, I'm just like, damn girl, you've done good.
That really is the best moment when like you're like, this is the greatest thing ever, and it's something you wrote.
I love that feeling. I love that feeling. That's one of my favorite things about editing the first, round or two. Is like as you're reading through, you're like, oh man, look at me go. Oh,
Marty. Do you know we were gonna end the podcast?
Okay, fine.
I'm stopping you. I'm cutting you off. It's 2 hours
Oh my
long.
god, okay. Everybody
you can find Kate. Okay. You can find Kate at by Kate Pryor, like everywhere. You can find me on TikTok and Twitter. No, on TikTok and Instagram at Marty V Author.
You can email Marty.
Yes,
at
only
Marty
me.
V at martyv.com.
Which Kate hates. So, only email me. Kate doesn't want to talk. Roxie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me on. This was very fun. Yay. I talked a lot.
We all did. Yeah. Again, like, this is very the way things go around here. So.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. And you're pretty cool. Okay, bye.
Bye.